Tolstoy's novel Anna Karenina. Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. After listening to and reflecting on many dissatisfying job stories, I began to wonder if the same is true about companies. This curiosity led me to pursue a degree in industrial organizational psychology, and that's why I'm here. So what did I learn about happiness in the workplace as part of my job? Well, according to Gallup's poll, only 21% of world's workforce is engaged. While pandemic did have a negative impact, the statistics from studies prior to it were not much more reassuring. And as we have entered the era of great resignation, employee disengagement statistics continue to remain discouraging. According to most across-industry workplace well-being surveys, over 70% of people experiencing work-related stress and its negative impact, including lack of motivation, energy, and meaning. Other concerning symptoms include cognitive and emotional exhaustion, physical fatigue, and burnout. In the documentary, you will hear from a renowned burnout researcher, Christina Maslach, who developed a widely used measure of burnout. I have used this measure in my own studies, and I'm not the only one. Quick search on Google on this scale resulted in almost 76,000 of academic published research studies. And this does not include practitioners' work and research in companies. This statistic is indicative of how prominent and concerning the issue of employee well-being is to academic and professional community. Why should we care? Well, in addition to cost to individuals, families, and communities, which in my books is already enough, disengaged, unhappy, and burnout employees cost companies around the world over $7.5 trillion, or 11% of global GDP. According to one recent study, the cost of work-related stress in North America was over $220 million. More inclusive analysis that incorporate cost of absenteeism, turnover, medical costs, and other factors up this number to $300 billion. Employees absent from work due to physical, mental symptoms do cost companies money, resources, and added stress to other employees. However, if someone needs to be absent, companies can make temporary alternative arrangements to cover the workload. But what about the employees that do show up to work when they really should be home and recovering? Unfortunately, famous Woody Allen's quote, 80% of success in life can be attributed to simply showing up, is not applicable to workplace. Physically and virtually present employees who are not fully functioning are not easily apparent, yet cut productivity by 1/3 or even more. Presentism, or what is now commonly referred to as quiet quitting, according to some experts, is 3 times more costly than absenteeism and more difficult to detect and address. So where do these troubling statistics come from? Going back to Tolstoy's assertion about unhappy families. As part of my research in applied work, I learned that this assertion does not apply to the workplace. Every toxic company culture is not toxic in its own way. Every unhealthy company culture has few shared fundamental features that drain their employee well-being. Some of those features include, but not limited to, lack of psychological and physical safety, poor leadership and management, lack of clear communications and expectations, hostile work environment, lack of flexibility and work-life balance. And of course, inadequate employee recognition combined with constantly increasing workload expectations. Now, why did I focus on organizational factors that could negatively impact employee well-being? Because through my work with unhealthy organization, one underlying theme has emerged. Leaders in those companies hold their employees and outside factors like pandemic or economy accountable for employee well-being and engagement. Leaders in those companies present me with the problem of not having luck of getting good employees and motivated employees. As such, I'm often asked to fix the employee, make them more motivated, make them engaged, make their attitudes better. Help me select employees that are inherently enthusiastic and not lazy. Train them to be creative and accomplishing more with less resources. Something that I hear less from leadership in those companies are questions like, what we as leaders can do differently? What organizational practices we can put in place to foster employee well-being and engagement? Where's our accountability in great resignation and quiet quitting? The good news is, I as psychologists and organizational development professionals work with companies around the world to apply evidence-based practices to help leaders create organizational cultures that are conducive to employee well-being and even thriving. As you hear stories shared in this documentary and recognize your own experiences in some and empathize with others, I encourage you to keep the following in mind. Engagement and job satisfaction are not characteristic of employees. It's experience created by organizations and leaders. It's not your job as an employee to fix a toxic workplace culture. It's a leader's job to initiate and facilitate this positive change. Your responsibility is to protect your well-being, your career, and people that you care about. Thank you.